In the world where every second counts, emergency calls serve as the lifeline, often standing between life and death. These are the voices that echo in the dark, the pleas for help that crackle through the line, the whispers of horror and the screams of terror. Each one is a story waiting to be told, a drama unfolding in real time. This, dear listeners, is the mysterious world of emergency calls. Emergency calls are more than just a lifeline. They are the pulsating heartbeat of a society in distress, the silent witnesses to our most private moments of fear and desperation. From the minor incidents like a cat stuck in a tree, to the truly horrifying situations where life hangs in the balance, these calls capture the full spectrum of human experiences. Imagine being the operator on the other end of the line, the person tasked with making sense of the panic, the confusion, and the sheer terror. It's a job that requires nerves of steel, the patience of a saint, and the ability to stay calm in the face of the unimaginable. And then, there are the calls that truly chill the blood, the ones that plunge us into the depths of human depravity, the ones that make us question our faith in humanity. These are the calls that haunt the operators long after the line goes dead, the ones that stay with them, echoing in their minds like ghostly whispers. As we journey into this world of emergency calls, we will hear some of these chilling and shocking calls. We will delve into the stories behind them, the people involved, and the events that led to these desperate pleas for help. But be warned, this is not a journey for the faint of heart. It's a journey into the darkest corners of human nature, the places we fear to tread. To truly understand the impact of these calls, we need to listen to them, to hear the voices on the other end of the line, to feel the desperation, the fear, and the hope. It's a journey that will take us into the heart of darkness, and perhaps bring us out the other side with a greater understanding of what it means to be human. Unveiling the true stories behind these calls may send chills down your spine. But remember, these are more than just stories. They are real-life dramas played out in the most extreme circumstances. So brace yourself and let's dive into the mysterious world of emergency calls. Imagine a quiet night suddenly shattered by a terrifying event. This is the reality for our first call. In the stillness of the night, when the world outside is hushed and the stars are the only spectators, an unnerving event unfolds. It's the kind of night where the tranquility is almost eerie, and then it's broken. A distressed voice cuts through the quiet, the first few words filled with urgency and fear. This is the voice of a victim, the protagonist of our first call. The situation, as described by the victim, is chilling. There's an intruder in her home, a fact she whispers through trembling lips, her voice barely above a whisper. She's hidden away in the safety of her closet, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a trapped bird, desperate to escape. Each second that ticks by is filled with dread, the fear of discovery looming over her like a storm cloud. And then there's the response from the police. The calm, steady voice on the other end of the line is a lifeline in the victim's sea of terror. It's immediate and assured, the voice of someone trained to handle crises. Instructions are given in a clear, precise manner, a stark contrast to the victim's frantic whispers. A promise of help on the way serves as a glimmer of hope, a beacon in the victim's dark world. Yet, even as the police rush to the scene, a sense of suspense hangs in the air. Will help arrive in time? Will the intruder be apprehended? The questions remain unanswered, the details of the outcome carefully tucked away, keeping the suspense alive. This is a story in progress, a narrative that continues to unfold even as our conversation moves forward. What happened next was something no one could have anticipated. It's a chilling reminder of the unpredictability of such situations, a testament to the courage of the victim, and a tribute to the relentless efforts of our emergency services. And it's a story that reminds us, once again, of the terrifying reality that can shatter a quiet night. Sometimes it's not the victims who call, but the perpetrators themselves. This was the case in our next chilling emergency call. The clock had just struck midnight when the phone rang at the police dispatch center. A calm, steady voice echoed through the receiver, claiming to be the orchestrator of a crime that had just been committed. This wasn't a frantic plea for help or a terrified scream for rescue. It was a cold, calculated confession. The crime was gruesome, a chilling act of violence that had left a quiet neighborhood in shock. The perpetrator, a man with no prior criminal record, had let his anger and frustration boil over into a deadly rage. His motive? A tangled web of resentment, jealousy, and betrayal that had been festering for years. But what makes this call stand out from countless others is the unexpected decision of the criminal to dial those 3 digits, 911. It's almost as if the weight of his actions had hit him all at once, the reality of his crime sinking in. Or perhaps it was a twisted sense of guilt or desire for punishment that led him to pick up the phone and confess. The dispatcher on the other end of the line was trained to handle all sorts of calls, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She listened, stunned, as the man on the other end of the line detailed his crime with an eerie calmness. His words, devoid of any emotion, painted a horrifying picture that left her grappling for words. The call ended with the man providing his location, seemingly ready to face the consequences of his actions. As the police cars sped towards the address, the dispatcher was left alone with the chilling echo of the man's words. In the mysterious world of emergency calls, this one will forever stand out, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the hearts of ordinary people. A confession, a cry for help, or a plea for punishment. We may never truly understand why the criminal made that call. The voice on the other end of the line was left stunned and horrified. Our third call takes us to an entirely different scenario, filled with unexpected twists and turns. Picture this: a quiet suburban neighborhood, the calm of the evening broken by the shrill ring of an emergency hotline. The dispatcher picks up, expecting another routine call, but this was anything but routine. The voice on the other end of the line is calm, eerily so. It's a woman, her words steady but carrying an undercurrent of something else. Not quite fear, not quite panic. She reports a break-in, but there's a catch. The intruder isn't a stranger, it's her own husband. The dispatcher, taken aback, probes further. The woman reveals her husband has been missing for 2 weeks. The police had been looking for him, his face plastered across local news channels. And now, he was in their house, acting like nothing had happened, oblivious to the chaos his disappearance had caused. The call grows more bizarre as it progresses. The woman insists her husband is not himself. His eyes are vacant, his mannerisms unfamiliar. He doesn't recognize her, doesn't remember their life together. It's as if he's a completely different person, a stranger wearing her husband's face. The police arrive on the scene, expecting a domestic dispute, but they find themselves dealing with something much more complex. The man doesn't resist, doesn't protest. He doesn't seem to recognize anyone or anything. He is, for all intents and purposes, a stranger in his own life. This call, this case, shook the police department to its core. It wasn't a crime of passion, a robbery gone wrong, or a desperate plea for help. It was a puzzle, a mystery wrapped in an enigma. It was a reminder that sometimes the most frightening calls aren't those filled with screams or cries for help, but the ones shrouded in silence and the unknown. The truth, as they say, can indeed be stranger than fiction. After hearing these chilling calls, one cannot help but realize the importance of emergency services. Indeed, these distress calls serve as a lifeline, connecting those in dire situations to a beacon of hope and security. Emergency calls are a critical part of our society, an invisible web of safety that spans across communities, cities, and countries. They are the first point of contact between a victim or a witness and law enforcement. The information relayed during these calls can be instrumental in solving crimes, finding suspects, or even saving lives. A call can provide real-time updates, helping authorities to react swiftly and efficiently. Thus, these calls are not just a cry for help, but a crucial tool in maintaining law and order. But while we often focus on the caller's experience, let's not forget the role of the emergency service operators. These unsung heroes are the calm amidst the storm. They are trained to handle a barrage of emotions, from fear and panic to anger and despair, with grace and composure. Their task is not merely to relay messages, but to provide comfort and assurance, to be the calm voice in the chaos, guiding callers through their darkest moments. Imagine the emotional toll it takes on these operators, who, day in and day out, pick up calls that could be matters of life and death. They bear the heavy responsibility of being the first responders, the first to hear a victim's plea or a criminal's confession. It's a job that requires immense mental resilience and emotional strength. Yet, despite the emotional strain, these operators continue to serve, driven by the knowledge that their work can make a difference, that their voice at the end of the line can bring hope and relief. It's a job that comes with its share of nightmares, but also its share of miracles. These calls are a stark reminder that in the face of danger, it's often a stranger's voice on the end of the line that brings hope. This is the significance of emergency calls, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, to our capacity for empathy and our collective will to safeguard one another.